Hey guys, guess what? In this episode, we're talking about expiring contracts. Yes, so this is part two of our season recap where the last episode obviously talked about the past, kind of wanted to wrap a bow on the whole season that we just had, including the playoffs. This episode is going to be focusing on the current dilemma uh, going on with the Hurricanes and what's more current than players that are on expiring contracts. And then the next episode is going to be how this team can get better moving forward. So in the next episode, uh, well, I will say this that the next episode, so just to give you guys a little bit of a preview for next week, Monday is actually going to be an episode of me previewing the drafts, kind of just give you a rundown of kind of the top prospects and prospects I think probably the Hurricanes should do because the reason why is a week from when this episode's released is the NHL draft. That's round one. Rounds 2 through 7 is happening the next day. And then Friday is when I will end the little 3 episode series arc with how this team goes better moving forward. So, but as usual, I have a great partnership with SeatGeek. You get $20 off of your first purchase with SeatGeek if you use promo code Caniac Reports, all one word. It's a great deal. And listen, if you haven't used it before, use it. If you have a local venue that you have interest in going to events with that uses SeatGeek, please use it because it helps you out by lowering the price on tickets. And yeah, another thing too is I have a link for donations. So there is a link for that if you want to donate. It's both on our YouTube descriptions and wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple or Spotify. So few things happened. Obviously, a few things happened. The Stanley Cup was awarded since our last episode because the Florida Panthers, does not come to any shock at all to me. Yes, they won the Stanley Cup, obviously. And in that game, it wasn't even close. You had Sam Reinhart putting on a performance with 4 goals. Four. That's crazy. But yeah, they win 5-1 against the Edmonton Oilers. No shock, honestly. I think the last time I heard about the Florida Panthers with the cup, seems like they broke it, but obviously that's not the actual real Stanley Cup. So I'm sure the NHL Hall of Fame, who actually keeps it, is like, not the real Stanley Cup. Not that big of a deal. But obviously comes with the Stanley Cup too is the winner of the Conn Smythe Trophy. And the winner, again, to me, this is no surprise at all. I thought he was, even though I thought there were a lot of great players for Florida that helped them win the cup, to me, there was a player no more important than Sam Bennett, who did win the Conn Smythe Trophy because he had an excellent playoffs. I believe he had like 15 goals in total on this playoff run for Florida. So to me, Bennett, that's a guy that is going to be getting paid, in my opinion. Whether it's with Florida or not, he's going to get paid because he put on a stellar of a performance. A few things have happened, though, ever since Florida won the Stanley Cup. One of them is Chicago made some news with extending Ryan Donato a 4-year, $4 million contract. Not bad for a player who did play pretty good for a struggling team in Chicago. And I am going to bring up his points here, but I remember there was one game where we played at Chicago that I thought he played pretty good against us, and this is a guy who got 31 goals, 31 assists, 62 points. So this is a guy who's scoring pretty good goals. So good for Donato for getting the pay raise, obviously. And Chicago, they have so much money in cap space, yeah, they're going to throw it at a guy who did deliver them over 60 points and half of them being goals, obviously. So, another thing, too, that did happen is probably the worst arch enemy of the Hurricanes fan base, Eric Holla, guys. He is moving from the Metropolitan Division to the Central Division. So we get to play him less. And he is being traded to, or he already got traded to Nashville for a 2025 fourth round pick and Jeremy Hansel. Hansel is a guy that got drafted in the sixth round back in 2023. Nothing really special there. You can tell this was sort of a cap type of dump for New Jersey. I mean, Eric Holla, is he probably a good, decent player? Maybe. But we know it did not work out when he was with us here. Really did not work out. But he is now going back to Nashville, who he has played for before, which to me was very interesting that he was going back to Nashville. So we'll see how he does with Nashville. And hey, I'm just happy we're playing against them less. And what's funny too, imagine if the Hurricanes and Nashville get to the Stanley Cup final next year, knowing how we have beaten the team Eric Holla has been on for multiple years. I could say, hey, we'd probably win that series. So, yeah, another thing too that's happened, and to me, this was actually, I would say, of all the news, I thought this was the biggest news right here because there have been several speculations about the future of Matt Duchene, especially because Dallas is in cap crunch right now. But Dallas did extend Matt Duchene to a 4-year, $4.5 million contract. And you know what? From what it sounded like, I think before this contract happened, it did sound like Duchene really wanted to stay in Dallas, and he got it. He's staying there for 4 more years. And I think some people might not be happy with the term. I think the money is excellent. I'm now, let's just say if I was general manager of Dallas, I'd probably be looking at more of a 2-3 year deal just because he is getting up there in age. I believe he's like 34, 35, 36, somewhere in the mid 30s for the age. So, but Matt Duchene, he played excellent for Dallas. Obviously, I think it probably kind of, yeah, he's 34 years of age, but Duchene, that's a player that is not going to be going to free agency. And he was a player that I thought Carolina might be intrigued to getting. I say might, but obviously with him off the board, he ain't going anywhere. So that's kind of it for stuff that are going on in the NHL. Again, when the Panthers win the Stanley Cup, we have these pretty big transactions happening, which means that we're getting closer to the draft, closer to free agency. It's going to be very, very fun. So now I'm going to talk about the Hurricanes here. And for the Hurricanes, quite a few stuff I would say did happen. One is that Aho and Anderson will be representing their countries at the Olympics. For those of you who don't know, the first 6 roster spots of all the countries participating in the Olympics were announced a little bit earlier this week. And Aho's going to be representing his team in Team Finland, and Anderson will be representing his team in Denmark. So, congrats to them. One thing I do want to say about these selections for Team USA, I noticed the one defenseman that was selected. Again, these are just the first 6 roster spots, so obviously there's going to be more revealed. But the one defenseman that was selected was Charlie McAvoy from Boston. I was a little bit bewildered by that, to be honest, because honestly, I mean, one, I think if you look at both of the teams, both Boston and Carolina, both are kind of heading in the different trajectories. Carolina is in a trajectory to winning the Stanley Cup. Boston's more in a trajectory of probably rebuilding. So to me, I think that's somewhat of a consideration. And second, I think if you look at the performance of both Slavin and McAvoy, I think Slavin is a bit better than McAvoy. I really do. I so to me that a little bit did bewilder me, but regardless, I do think Slavin at some point is going to be a part of Team USA for the Olympics. I would be shocked if he wasn't. And trust me, with me being a biggest Slavin fan, I ain't going to be happy. You guys know this. Probably have an aneurysm somewhere. But another thing too is Stankoven was on a radio show or whatever, and he was interviewed, obviously, and he said a couple things. He praised the Hurricanes, obviously, overall. But there was one thing that made me very, very excited because you guys know how much I love Stankoven. And the fact that he kind of was asked about like extending with the Hurricanes, and he said, I believe I'm paraphrasing here, but he kind of said it would be a dream come true to sign a long term deal with the Hurricanes. When I heard that, I was so happy because it really does seem like even before he said that, it really seems like he loved playing here in Carolina. And it makes me very grateful of the players that we have that play here and they say they like it. Obviously, if they don't like it, we know they're going to leave. I mean, look at Mikko Rantanen, for example. But again, I just love seeing a guy that's as talented as Stankoven is saying that he loves being here. And it makes me even proud to be a Hurricanes fan even more. I'm sure you guys probably think the same. So I'm happy Stankoven said those words. And uh, part of a discussion later in this episode on Stankoven. But another thing, too, this I believe came out today as I'm recording this on a Thursday. Darren Dreger said he could see a fit between Ellers and Carolina. And when I saw that, I was like, yes, I would love Ellers to come here. And I think there are going to be those comparables of like, oh, well, who would you rather have, like Marner or Ellers? And obviously, I'm probably am going to say Marner just because I think he is more of a game changer. But, and I would say probably from the way things are trending with Marner, I think it's more likely that he doesn't end up signing here as much as I hate to say it. But if he doesn't, and let's say we do sign Ellers, again, I'm not saying we sign Ellers, but if we do sign Ellers, I would not be disappointed with that at all. I think this is a guy that can score. He has lots of skill. He's not really a guy that pushes the body around, but I think he could be very good. I could see a very, very good line of Ellers, Aho, and Jarvis. I'd love to see that. And I've said this before many, many times. I think the Hurricanes need two top six players. I think they need a player to play with Aho and Jarvis, and I think they need a player to obviously fulfill that need of a second line center. And I think Ellers, while he's a true winger, it's not really a center. I think he would fulfill that need of playing with Aho and Jarvis because as much as I love Aho, and he did have a bit of a down season. I think he needs more consistent veteran playing up there with him. I think that would really help him. And I would say Jarvis or whoever is on the right side with Aho a lot. So I love to bring Ellers in. Really, really would. So that's it. Now I'm going to get to talking about our current UFAs. And with the amount of UFAs that we have, I also am going to throw in the players that have are eligible for extensions. So I'm gonna get to that, but first I'm gonna get to a sponsor. The fastest game on ice just hit another gear. Welcome to the Stanley Cup Final, where legends are made and every shift could turn the tide. And now, with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can take every slapshot, breakaway, and overtime thriller to the next level. New to betting on the Stanley Cup Final? You're in for an exciting time. Getting started is a breeze. Fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app, pick your team to win, lock in your wager, and you're off to the races. It's fast, simple, and puts you right in the middle of the action. Here's the kicker. New customers who bet just $5 will score $300 in bonus bets if their wager hits. That's right, turn $5 into a Stanley Cup Final payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. That's promo code THPN to unlock $300 in bonus bets when your $5 bet wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Copyright 2025 NHL. Okay, so if you look at, I'm going to start with this. If you look at last offseason, we had so many great players coming off the board. These were considered cornerstone type of players. Teravainen, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce. That was a tough offseason. I think all of us can say it was tough because all those players did go to free agency. There was some talk, I think, of us probably bringing back Brady Shea, but ultimately it didn't work out. He signed with Nashville. So obviously, looking at our current contracts that are expiring, things look. I mean, obviously, there are some fans that are probably going to be a little bit disappointed, probably maybe with Orlov leaving or with Burns leaving. But regardless, things look a little bit happier. And what I'm going to do when I go through each of these players that are on expiring contracts is I'm going to give my again, I'm going to give my opinion whether I think they come back or not. And then I'm going to say if we do sign them, how much I think we're going to sign them for. And then let's say if they go on the open market, I'm going to say how much I think they get on the market. So, first player I'm going to start with is Jackson Blake. And do I think he's going to come back? No, I do not think he is going to come back. Again, this is a team that is wanting to win the Stanley Cup. Eric Tolsky even said that in his press conference. He even said that he wants to win the cup and future cups too. So obviously he wants to create a dynasty kind of like Florida is right now with winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. So Roslovic, yeah, I do not think he comes back. To me, the reason why is again what I just said, and obviously, even though I thought he played decent in the playoffs, I mean, I just you got to get better. And Roslovic, I think at most top 9 player. I said a lot about performances of these players in my end of season grades and last week's episodes. So if you want to hear me more talk about their performances, go to those episodes. But from a business aspect, I think if we somehow signed Roslovic, again, I don't think we are. I think it's going to be around $2.5 to $3 million. It's going, and it's around the ballpark of how much he did get signed this past season. If you guys remember, he got signed, I believe, $2.75 million, somewhere in there. And I think if he went out into free agency, which I 100% think he will, I think he's probably going to get. I could see him challenge for $3 million just because, again, you look at his goal totals, he got over 20 goals. I could see him getting around 3 million, but I think it'd be around the low 3 millions, and I think that's going to be it. He's not seen as a top six player. The next player I want to talk about, Eric Robinson. And this is a player who fits in perfectly with Brendan Moore's system. And he got over 30 points, obviously. Now, do I think he comes back? No. Again, I put no on a lot of these UFAs, except for one, because I think one it makes a little bit more sense on. But with Eric Robinson, the reason why I say no is because at the trade deadline, we acquired another big guy in Jankowski. And when I saw that we acquired him and the fact that he actually played pretty good after we acquired him, I do think that makes Eric Robinson expendable. And this is a player who I think, uh, I mean, obviously we know Tom Dundon here. He's been owner for quite some time. Burnmore even said it recently on an interview. Dundon plays hardball. He really does. So I think if Robson does somehow come back, I think it'd probably be uh he got over 30 points. I say probably around 2.5 million. But I think honestly, if he goes to free agency, I think he could probably get more. 2.5 to 3 million. And I am, even though I probably don't like to play the comparison game, this does remind me a lot of how we treated Stefan Nason last offseason. He didn't come back. I hated that. I thought that really hurt because I thought Nason, even though he's Robson and him, I think kind of mirror each other in terms of how they play. I think Nason is a little bit of a better player, but I could see Robinson getting around the same type of contract that Nason got. So we'll see how Robinson does. I'm not saying that there's a 0% chance he doesn't come back, but I would say there's a 20% chance probably Robinson comes back. 80% chance he goes to market. Again, I truly think that number one indicator is because of Jankowski. I really do. And like I said with Rozovic, this team needs to get better. And Robinson, while he can be physical, obviously, you need the guys who are both physical and are very skilled with the puck. Look at Florida, for example. And while Robinson, he has all the work ethic, he has the big body and all that type of stuff. He's not a very skilled player, and we kind of already have that somewhat, I would say, in a player like Jordan Martinook. So, again, more reason why I think he's just expendable. The next player, and the only player that I'm going to say that I think he could come back, I'm going to say yes on him, is Tyson Jost. The reason why I say Tyson Jost, and is because I think it's going to depend on how the Hurricanes view Jankowski. If the Hurricanes view Jankowski as a fourth line center, which I would not mind. I think Jankowski, honestly, I think he is a player that can play fourth line minutes and be excellent in. Would I probably prefer Jankowski probably to be a depth player? Maybe, but I listen. If you put him on a fourth line, I'm completely fine with that. The guy can win faceoffs and he's big. But with Tyson Jost coming back, I think that'd be good just because you need all the depth you can get. And I think the Hurricanes are going to look at Jankowski and be like, you know what? He could be our fourth line center. And to me, I think if he does, then I think that raises questions with probably KK. But I think there is a good chance Tyson Jost possibly comes back. I'm not saying that he does, but I think there's a good chance of him coming back just because you need all the depth you can get. And even though I thought he started out rough in his few games, I thought he got better. And the guy is pretty responsible defensively. And obviously, Brendan Moore loves those type of players. So yeah, he's the type of player that you kind of need heading into the season. Every season starts with 82 games that you have to play. There are going to be injuries. And if Tyson Jones has to slot in because of an injury, you know what? I'm fine with it. I really am. So I would say he does come back. I would not be shocked if he does. And I would say if we do sign him, I think he's probably going to get uh, probably somewhere below $1 million, maybe $1 million, somewhere in there. Usually the type of money that players usually get, and I think he's would probably get the same on the open market as well if he somehow went to free agency. The next two players are obviously more notable, but the next player, Brent Burns, and boy, is there a debate amongst us Canes fans on bringing Burns back or not. And I'm gonna say I don't think he comes back. And the reason why, I mean, it's not so much that this Canes team needs to get better, but I think the thing that really is against them, obviously, there's the age factor, and another thing too is look at our roster right now with the current defenseman that we have. I don't think he fits, and I would say that's the same argument for Scott Morrow as well. But if you like the Ghost Walker pair and you don't want to break that up, and if you want to have Chatfield playing with Nikishkin, which I think would be an excellent pair, then obviously you're probably going to have to put him with guess who? Jacob Slavin. And I don't know if Dundon or even Eratulski would be willing to give him money to play with Slavin getting first pair minutes to a 40-year-old. So I just don't think that's going to happen. You need someone a little bit more sustainable. So that's why I say no. Now, if we do sign him, I think it's going to be a pretty low amount. I would say at the most, probably $2 million at the most. I think if we sign him for even more, honestly, I'm not going to be a big fan of it. Really, really am not. The guy is 40 years old. I love the dude. I think he has a great personality. But I mean, if he wants to play again, which he has every right to make that choice, I I think it's more likely he plays with another team than with us. I think honestly, if he does go to open market, I think he gets more money just because he has that reputation. And there are, I think, several teams that could use uh because I do think he has some leadership skills, obviously. And there are teams that are going to be looking for right-handed defensemen, which are kind of a little bit scarce if you look at it. It's not easy to get right-handed defensemen, so I think that alone kind of increases his value. So I could see Brent Burns probably getting, I would say at the most, because again he is 40, probably around $4 million, or I would say probably the max 4 million. Again, I really could see a team like, I think, I'm not saying he's going to go there, but I think a team that wants to get back in the playoffs, that needs help on the blue line. I mean, could Detroit offer him a contract? Maybe they're looking at getting back in the playoffs. We know Chicago wants to get better. Anaheim wants to get better. I think there are going to be teams that are probably going to be wanting Brent Burns' service, and I'll say quite a few. So I think if he does go to open market, probably going to be getting a little bit more money than us, but we'll see what happens with Brent Burns. The next player, Dmitry Orlov, I don't think he comes back. Really don't. The reason why, to me, is one player, Nikishkin. And well, I would say that's mostly the reason. I would say probably the second reason is because it is how Brendan Moore runs things. You know, obviously Orlov, whether he likes to play on his offside or not, you know, Brendan Moore ideally he doesn't like playing defenseman on their offside. So let's say if we do keep Orlov, he's going to have to play on the rights. He just is because we know the left side is solidified with Slavin, Ghost, and Nikishkin. But I don't think Orlov does come back. I think if we signed Orlov, funny enough, I actually think we will give him a little bit more money than Brent Burns just because he doesn't have that H factor that Burns has. I think he probably gets around $3 to $4 million. That's my guess. Now, I think on the open market, he probably gets a little bit more because we know how Dundon is when it comes to offering players these type of contracts. He sets a value at the player and does not normally go over it. And I think Orlov, he probably does get a little bit more money. I'd say he probably gets around $5 to $6 million. But with how free agency looks right now, with it being shallow, especially with Duchesne coming off the boards, I do think there are going to be a good amount of teams that would sign him. Now, another thing too with Orlov that I do want to say is there is that speculation that he'll probably sign in Russia. And now, if it's confirmed, I do not know of it as I am recording right now. But if he does go to Russia, then obviously him playing in any form of the NHL is gone. So we'll see what happens with Orlov, whether he goes with another team or goes back to Russia. We just never know. Now, the players that are eligible for extensions, there are 4 players I'm going to get to, and then I'm going to end this episode. Jackson Blake. For the record, do I think he comes back? Yes. Now, I do think there's a chance he does get traded, but I think the likelihood of him coming back is stronger than him getting traded because he's a very, very valuable piece. He was a rookie this past season, played very, very good. And I think if we extended Blake, again, we can only extend these players once July 1st hits. I think if we do extend him, let's say we do that gamble, see if offer him a big long-term contract with low money because we did that before with KK. I think if we did that with Blake, I think he probably get around $4 to $5 million. I do. I think if he somehow hit the open market, let's say in a year, and we don't sign him, I don't think that happens. I think the more likelihood is we trade him before he goes to the open market. In fact, I don't think he even hit free agency because he'd still be an RFA. He'd still have control over him. But if, let's just say hypothetically he goes to the open market, he becomes a free agent. Again, he ain't going to, but I could see this guy getting probably a little bit more, probably around. I would say, yeah, I'd say probably a little bit more, probably around 5 to 5.5 million, because somewhere probably in there, a little bit more than I think what the Canes are offering. But at the same time, I think the Canes view him as a very, very valuable asset. I can't see this player going anywhere else unless we're getting a very, very good player coming back. So, Logan Stankoven. Do I think he comes back? Yes, I do. And to me, this is a player, I would say, out of all these players, I think the Hurricanes should work on probably the most. Because even though I love Blake, I think Stankoven, he showed in the playoffs, he can make an impact. And I would say if we do extend him, it'd be around, I'd say, 5 to 6 million. And again, I just said I think he's more of a goal scorer. I think that's going to be a factor if we do extend him. That's going to be a factor of us giving him probably that much money because, I mean, players, if they can score quite a bit of goals, they get paid in this league. That's just a fact in the NHL. It's not just the Hurricanes; it's around the entire league. And I doubt he goes to open market. If he does become a UFA years down the road, again, he's not going to, like Blake. But if he does, I could see him getting probably a bit more, 6 to 7 million. Because I think this is that he's that good of a player and can be that good of a player. I think the guy's potential probably could be a 30 to 40 goal scorer. Do I think he gets 40 goals? Probably not likely, but I think the guy can get 30 goals. Probably maybe 35. So Stankoven, once July 1st, that'd be one of my first assignments. I would extend him because I think he has shown that he's worth keeping both short and long term. The next player I have is Nikishkin, and I'm not putting in yes. I'm putting in absolutely he stays here. He's going to be a future cornerstone on this team, I think, for a long time. I think if we somehow signed him, I doubt we extend him. And the reason why I doubt we extend him is just because he hasn't given us a full NHL season yet. And I honestly, I would not advise Dundon or Eritolski if I was a part of the organization to try and extend him, just because even though the guy is going to be special, you haven't. I mean, yeah, you saw him play a few playoff games, but that's it. I'd rather sign him after next season when he actually does become an RFA. But if they do extend him, I would commend Tolsky and Dundon because again, they're trying to be proactive. I could see the Kitchen probably getting around 5 to 6 million, maybe. I think on the open market, honestly, with the way this kid's being advertised, again, not really played an NHL game yet, so there's only so much money I could predict of him getting if he somehow goes to UFA years down the road. Again, like Stinkov and Blake, I doubt Nikishin goes on the open market, but if he somehow does, I'd say probably the same as Stinkov, probably maybe 6 to 7 million, probably. But the next player, the last player, Scott Morrow, he is eligible for an extension. Do I think he comes back? I'm going to say no. I actually just do not see him coming back at all. Now, I think the only thing that if we keep him is if they kind of view Scott Morrow more of a long term plan, which they could, because I honestly think it's 50-50. And the reason why I say long term plan is if you look at Shane Gostisbehere's contract, he has 2 more years left on his contract. They could be like, well, when Ghost hits free agency or if he's like somehow retires or whatever, at least we have Morrow. That's why I could see Tolsky and Dunn probably looking at with Scott Morrow. But I just have a feeling he's probably not going to come back because, again, this is a team that's in win now mode. I could see him getting traded. And I think if we do extend him, it's probably going to be a two-way type of contract because I just don't think he's an NHL player yet. I really do think there's more developing that he needs to do down in Chicago. I think if he somehow hit the open market, I don't think he ain't going to get much either. I think he's probably going to get around 1 to 2 million, 2 million at the very most. But those are my players on the current UFAs and those eligible for extensions. I enjoy that very, very much. And thank you guys, obviously, for listening and taking time out of your day for listening to me rambling about the Hurricanes. But you know what? I tried to put my mind to it. I don't just blurt out everything, obviously, out on here. But if you did like this episode, please be sure to hit like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube and hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. And if you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, whatever, please leave a rating, a review. It really does help us out. And I'll see you guys Monday. Hey, I got that right.